Welcome in, everybody. Ready for a deep dive? Today we're tackling How to Own Your Own Mind by Napoleon Hill. Get ready to unlock your thoughts and use them to really make things happen.
You bet. Hill's ideas are still so relevant, It's like he knew exactly what we'd all be struggling with, this desire to take control and really achieve something meaningful.
Absolutely. And well, today's deep dive is zeroing in on three big concepts from the book: creative vision, organized thought, and controlled attention. We'll unpack each one, see how they work in the real world and what you can take away from it all.
Sounds great.
So first up, creative vision. Seems simple enough, but what's Hill really getting at?
Well, he's talking about seeing potential where others might miss it completely. It's using your imagination to not just dream, but solve problems, come up with new things. Think of it as your inner innovator, always looking for a better way.
Love that, your inner innovator. So not just daydreaming, but using that imagination, right, to make things happen.
Exactly. And Hill makes this really clear point that creative vision, that's where it all starts. It's the spark that gets everything going.
Okay, so how does this spark play out in real life?
Well, let's take Thomas Edison. Everyone knows he invented the light bulb, but it's his persistence that's really amazing. Thousands of failures before he got it right.
Right. It's that classic quote about him saying, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
Yeah, exactly. But think about it. How'd he stay so motivated? Hill says people with that powerful creative vision, they rarely quit. They get kind of obsessed, in a good way, until they find the answer.
So they don't just see the finish line, they see every step it takes to get there, even the setbacks.
Absolutely. And Hill gives another interesting example. The very first mail order business, a railroad guy, used his free time to create this whole new business model. He took what was already there, the postal service, railroads, and a growing number of shoppers, and boom, combined them in a completely new way.
Amazing. Taking the ordinary and making it extraordinary, huh?
Right. And there's this element of motivation in that story, too. For that railroad guy, it was money, right? What drives you to use your own creative vision? What makes you want to create?
Good question to think about. Now, Hill also talked to Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate, got his view on creative vision. What did Carnegie have to say?
Well, Carnegie, he was a big believer in the American way, how our system encourages people to take initiative and create their own businesses. He saw creative vision as like the engine of American industry, not just for big inventions, but in everything.
So it's about individuals having the freedom to create, to innovate, and that helps everyone, right? Benefits society.
Precisely. Hill even quotes Carnegie. The man who trains his mind to create ideas or to give old ideas a new and better use is well on the road toward economic independence. He saw it as the key to personal success and making the world a better place.
So how can someone start developing their own creative vision? It feels like something you're either born with or not.
That's a pretty common thought, but Hill says it can be developed. Like a muscle you have to train. Start small. Look around your everyday life, Find those little problems and try to solve them. Find ways to improve things. Don't be afraid to experiment and try things out.
It's like flexing that inner innovator muscle,
Yeah.
right? Always asking, how can this be better?
Exactly. And remember motivation. Find what drives you, what gets you excited, and use that to power your creative vision.
Wow, great breakdown of creative vision. But now let's shift gears, okay? And dig into organized thought. What's Hill talking about here?
Organized thought. It's like, having this super clear, systematic way of thinking. Imagine your mind is this perfectly organized file cabinet, everything in its place. It's knowing how to sift through all that information, seeing what's fact, what's just someone's opinion. And then you can, prioritize, zero in on the details that matter.
So like a mental decluttering process.
You got it. And in today's world where we're just bombarded with information, this is a superpower.
I see that. When there's so much coming at you, it's easy to get swept away, make decisions based on, noise, not clear thinking.
Exactly. Hill says organized thought, it's critical for good planning, problem solving. You get more done, you're more efficient, because you're not wasting time on distractions or things that don't really matter.
It's like having a roadmap, right? Instead of wandering around lost. You know where you're going and how to get there.
Spot on. What's really interesting? Hill links this to something that might seem kind of out of left field. Belief.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have put those two together right away. Tell me more.
So Hill's idea is that belief It goes beyond just logic or reason. It's powerful stuff. Think about like George Washington leading the Continental Army. They were totally outmatched by the British, right? But Washington, he had this unshakable belief that could win, and it like spread through the whole army.
It's that extra something, right, that takes you from hoping to win to, like, knowing deep down you will.
Right. And Edison, there he is again, his belief in electricity. When everyone else is like, what? That was a huge part of why he kept experimenting. He was convinced, convinced he could make it work for everyone. Hill even quotes him saying, I never did anything worth doing by accident, nor did any of my inventions come indirectly through accident except the phonograph. No, when I have fully decided that a result is worth getting, I go ahead on it and make trial after trial until it comes.
That's such a great example of how organized thought, belief, and sticking with it all work together. He wasn't messing around, he had a vision, and he believed in it 100%. And wow, look what he achieved.
Hill puts it perfectly. The world belongs to men who believe. It always has and it always will. For him, belief was the key to, becoming who you're meant to be.
But hold on, isn't there a danger with, like, believing something too strongly? What about believing the wrong things?
That's a really important point. Hill knows that self-deception, it's a trap. That's why he talks about building controlled habits. It's being able to constantly question what you think, looking for good information and being open to different perspectives.
So it's like balancing that strong belief with critical thinking. Not blind faith, but a belief system that you're always testing and refining.
Exactly. It takes real discipline. You have to train your mind to really look at information, see the biases, and know what's true and what's not.
It's like building up your mental immune system so you can fight off bad ideas and hold on to the good ones.
I love that analogy. And this actually leads to something else Hill talks about, how organized thought is connected to developing good habits in general.
Okay, I'm curious. Tell me more about that.
So Hill says successful people, they don't just wait for good habits to happen. They go out and create them through effort, doing things over and over. It's about taking control of your thoughts and actions instead of letting them control you.
Right, that makes sense. It's not just about, like, organizing your thoughts in the moment, but building those systems and habits that help you think clearly and get things done.
Exactly. One really practical thing Hill suggests is to make it a habit to question what you think. Before you decide something, stop and ask yourself, what evidence do I have for this? Or is there another way to look at this? Don't take things at face value. Dig a little deeper.
That's great advice, especially nowadays. We're just flooded with information. It's about being more discerning, not just taking everything in, but really thinking about it.
Right. So, ready to move on to the third principle, controlled attention.
Definitely. In this age of distractions, this one feels super important, right? Controlled attention, it really does feel like a superpower, right?
What? Oh, absolutely. It's like everywhere you look, something's trying to grab your attention. Notifications, emails, that endless scroll on social media, it never stops.
Yeah, like our brains are constantly being pulled in a million directions.
Yeah.
So how does Hill actually define controlled attention?
He says it's that ability to really focus on just one thing at a time, blocking out everything else, resisting that urge to multitask. Like a laser beam, cutting through all the noise and landing right on what's truly important.
That's a great image. Makes me think of those athletes, who can just completely zone out the crowd and focus on the game. Or surgeons. They got to have total concentration during those really delicate procedures.
Exactly. And maybe we're not all doing brain surgery or hitting those game-winning shots, but controlled attention, it's still essential for success in anything you do.
So how does that laser focus, how does it actually help you achieve things in the real world?
Hill has some great stories that show how powerful it can be. One that comes to mind is John Patterson, the founder of National Cash Register. He had the sales team, and they were struggling, really demoralized, focused on all the reasons why they couldn't close deals.
Yeah, I get that. It's easy to get stuck in that negative thinking when things aren't going your way.
Right. But Patterson, he did something really smart. Instead of focusing on the problems, he told his team, find the good stuff, find the positives in your territories. He shifted their attention away from what wasn't working to what could work.
And that made a difference.
Huge difference. Their whole mindset changed just by focusing on solutions instead of problems. And their business, it took off.
Wow. Just shows how powerful a simple shift in focus can be.
Right. Hilly Hill also points to Asa Candler and the success of Coca-Cola. Now, Candler, he was a marketing genius. He understood that controlled attention, that's valuable stuff. He poured tons of money into advertising, making sure people always had Coca-Cola on their minds.
Yeah, it's incredible how much of their success comes down to that single-minded focus on their brand.
And then there's John Wanamaker, the merchant king of Philadelphia. He believed that his success was all about, well, his ability to focus, to put all his energy behind one purpose. Controlled attention. That was his secret.
So it's not just working hard, it's about working smart, focusing on the things that really matter.
Exactly. Hill tells another great story, this one about Cyrus H.K. Curtis. He founded the Saturday Evening Post.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. It's a pretty famous magazine. What's the story there?
Curtis, he went through a lot. Money troubles, competition, people telling him to give up. But he had this, unwavering focus, this ability to just keep going, even when things got rough.
It's amazing how all these people overcame so much and achieved incredible things, all because of this idea of controlled attention.
And Hill takes it even further. He says that, emergencies, they often force people to really zero in on a problem, and that can lead to, breakthroughs, almost like miracles.
Interesting. So sometimes pressure can actually spark innovation.
Right. He gives the example of Dr. Bell, who invented the telephone. He was inspired by his wife's deafness. So it was a personal crisis that made him focus on finding a solution, and boom, a world-changing invention was born.
These stories are really inspiring. But let's get practical. What advice does Hill give for actually developing this controlled attention superpower?
Well, one simple thing is to set aside dedicated time to focus on your work. Shut out the distractions, turn off those notifications, put your phone away, and really immerse yourself in what you're doing.
It's about creating those spaces where you can really get into a flow.
Yeah. And even those short bursts of focus can be really productive. It's all about training your mind to stay present, resist those distractions that pop up.
Any other tips for uh, building up that concentration muscle?
Definitely. Hill suggests mindfulness exercises. It's all about being aware of your thoughts and feelings without judging them. It can help you control your attention better and not get so caught up in distractions.
So you're learning to just observe those thoughts without getting pulled away by them.
Exactly. And there are so many ways to practice mindfulness, meditation, yoga, even just taking a few minutes to focus on your breath.
It's about finding what works for you
Yeah.
and making it a habit.
Now, let's bring this all back to those other two principles, creative vision and organized thought. Hill really believed that these three, they work together like a winning combination for success.
I see that. You have creative vision, that's the spark, the idea. Then organized thought helps you make a plan. And controlled attention gives you that focus to actually make it happen.
Exactly. It's about getting your thoughts, actions, and focus all working together towards the same goal. And when you do that, when those three principles are in sync, that's when you unlock your true potential.
This has been such a great deep dive into these ideas. But before we go, I want to give our listeners something to think about, something they can do today to start owning their own minds. What would you suggest?
Set a goal. Something that really gets you fired up, something that matters to you. Then use what we've talked about today. Tap into your creative vision, get your thoughts organized, and really focus on taking action. You have the power to create the life you want.
That's a great message to end on. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure. And to everyone listening, remember, what will you create when you truly own your mind?